Margie here. Are you ready to learn 7 exercises that you can easily put into your life that will help improve your vision and prevent cataracts and other issues with your eyes? Well, if so, you are in the right place because that is what this episode is about. And I'm so excited about our special guest, Claudia Muehlenweg. And Claudia is someone I've known for quite a long time. She's a friend and she's the holistic vision coach, and she's the founder of the Naturally Clear Vision Institute. She is leading the natural vision improvement movement, and she focuses on finding root causes of her clients' blurry vision. And her programs work. I've improved my vision since doing so much of what Claudia's taught me. And you can learn more about her in the show notes. But this episode is just full of great things you can put into your life that will really make a difference. So stay tuned. Welcome, Claudia. So happy to have you here on the podcast. It's always a pleasure. And I love that we're wearing a very similar color. We didn't plan this. So we're on the same wavelength. And I'm just really thrilled because you have so much great information to share with everybody. So thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me back. And our topic today, colors, is a very important thing to talk about too.
Absolutely. Well, before we get started, because we have 7 different exercises that you're going to really share with us that can really make a big difference in your eyesight and preventing cataracts and so many things. But I just have to thank you because you've been on a few times. And what's happened to me from learning from you from the very first time you came on the podcast was that my night vision, since I stopped, this is another topic, but Claudia pretty much told me you should not wear sunglasses 24/7, which I was doing. So since I stopped that, my night vision is absolutely fine. And you taught me to blink more often and a couple other things. I no longer have dry eye at the computer and I don't really have any eye strain. So your teachings have made such a difference for me and so many others in the community. So I'm really grateful and I'm excited about what you're going to share today because, yes, our bones are so important, but our eyesight is crucial. And a lot of people don't realize that there are things that we can all do every day to really improve our vision and even prevent things like cataracts. So I'm just really thrilled to have you here. And we might as well just get started. You want to tell us a little before we do that, for those who don't know you, just say a little bit about how you got into this work in terms of, why are you doing what you're doing today?
First of all, what you just said is so important. Most people have never heard that you can change your eyesight, right? We kind of led to believe that once we either have bad eyeballs, it's genetics, or we're getting older and there's nothing you can do other than glasses, contacts, and surgery. So I think that understanding that you already just expressed with your own experience of doing just a few simple things, right? That's so important for everybody to just understand right now, right? So my story was basically, I got glasses at the age of 3 years old, and I never really fully understood, like I was just teased and bullied and I hated the glasses. But I was just told, like, you just have bad eyes. There's nothing you can do. And then I discovered over time that how my stress levels, how a lot of these different things that we're going to talk about today, how I used my eyes, right? And I was born, in the 60s. We didn't have screens back then. But still, my daily habits and how they contributed and my stress levels and how I saw the whole world, how that contributed to me, my vision getting worse and then eventually getting better. So I connected the dots really early on because I was so determined to get rid of glasses. And while it took me a while, I've been glasses free for over, I don't even know now, I have to think back, probably like 25 years at this point where I haven't really been wearing glasses consistently.
Yeah, that's so great. And your teachings are, that's the other thing. I can't get over how many people in the community have thanked me that they changed their prescription. They were able to really improve from your programs and things. So it really works. And I just think, our eyes are so important. Having a grandmother who became blind who became blind from an issue with her eyes, it's just so sad. So we really want healthy eyes and to do everything we can because it's really a gift we're given. All right, so let's just get started. You're going to share all these great exercises and things that we can easily really put into our life. And so that's what's so empowering, I think.
Well, I do want to say, so you and I talked beforehand, like what is something that would really benefit a lot of people. And as we get older, right, a lot of my audience, and I think yours too, we're over 50. And then we hear like all these things like everybody gets cataracts, everybody loses their near vision, being unable to read print, without strong reading glasses. And those are the kind of things we hear. And many eye doctors say if you live long enough, you will definitely get cataracts. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I think it's really important to know that we can do things to prevent cataracts. And I'm actually really humbled, Margie, what you just said about the success of my programs, because I even had people go from a stage 3 cataract down to a stage 2, and I've only seen before where early stage that was diagnosed by an eye doctor completely went away, but I haven't even seen, more not fully mature, but more advanced cataracts improve. So I'm always blown away by the successes that we can accomplish if we really are willing to do the work, so to speak. I don't know, I want to say a few things. So obviously the exercises I'm showing today, I prefer to use the word relax exercises because it's really helping you relaxing your eyes. It's the eye muscles are already really strong. They're usually too tense, and that's why we have issues with vision. It's not that they're just, innately too weak or atrophied from never using them. It's usually they're just really tense. So that's one thing I want to say. And then obviously, especially with cataracts or any eye diseases, like you described your mother, becoming blind. A lot of these things are related to things that you teach too, right? The gut health, the nutrition, like we have to kind of look at those things too. Like, what are we eating? Are we smoking? Are we exposed to heavy metals? Like, there's definitely things that you can't, like, quote unquote exercise away. If you live a poor lifestyle, I used to smoke cigarettes. I always say this, I'm from Germany. We all used to smoke, and but we can make changes today to help our eyes be as healthy as possible. So I do want to talk about the things that we can do, and also like steroids. Those are all kind of things that could be systemically kind of creating damage to your eyes that are not related to how you use your eyes, but that affect your overall health. So I think that's very important to know that, even if I'm really big believer in the things that I'm teaching, and that alone might not be enough. If you have diabetes, that is a huge risk factor, or even pre-diabetes is a huge risk factor, or 60% of cataract sufferers have pre-diabetes or diabetes. So we definitely need to get those things under control as well. I do want to say that ahead of time. Should we start with the first thing, or should we start with the
Yes,
first?
yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So, for those of you that are watching the video, if you're listening, I have a model of an eyeball here, and cataracts. Let me just take all the pieces out, the cornea and the iris. Cataracts affect the lens of the eye, and that's what they also say when you lose your near vision as you get older, right? We're talking about the lens is getting stiff, or in cataracts, the lens is getting more milky, more cloudy. So that's something that usually, that's why we wanted to combine these two conditions that so many people struggle with, because they really affect the lens of the eye. Now, before we get into the exercises and why I'm recommending some of these things, you have to understand that when we look into the distance, there's 6 muscles around the eyeball. Each eyeball has 6 muscles around the eyeball that kind of can move the eyes in their socket. They can also roll the eyes toward each other, which we have to do when we look up close, right? Think of crossing your eyes. But when we look into the distance, like all the muscles are relaxed. The muscle that tightens the lens is called the ciliary muscle. It's a sphincter muscle that is also relaxed. When we look up close, the ciliary muscle tightens. So think of your lens getting thicker as if you're like flexing your biceps. And then the muscles that roll the eyes toward each other also have to engage. So there is more work in terms a muscular effort in terms of vision at a near point than it is at the distance. So I think that's really important to know, that when we talk about losing near vision or why we have trouble with looking up close, it is more of a muscular effort, like just like it is more of an effort. I don't know, do a squat than just standing, right? So doing a squat is already more of a muscular effort, or flexing a biceps. So Any questions before we get into the first exercise?
Hey, Margie here. High quality supplements are a big part of a comprehensive osteoporosis program. To help you, I offer a significant discount every day in my supplement store through FullScript. FullScript has the most extensive catalog of professional grade supplements and wellness products I've ever found. So all you need to do is go to tinyurl.com. That's tinyurl.com/supplements for less. And you'll get to my FullScript store. And in there, you'll see my favorite bone building supplements. So make sure to check it out. And the link will also be in the show notes. So let's get back to the show.
No, I was just thinking that, reading is close up, but the phone. So have you seen that an increase in this problem because, people live on their phone? Have you, is
I think it is. I mean, that yeah, I see what I see when I look at people, using devices. There is, when we have devices, and I see that with relatives too, right? Or friends. On the phone, you can make your text really big and you can make it bold, which is something I don't recommend. You can kind of pinch in and zoom in and do all those things. When you have a printed book, it's a book. It's like you can't make the font bigger or larger or do any of those things or make the background brighter. So I think in a way, it's kind of teaching us worse habits because instead of focusing on what we can do to see clearly, we're now using like what do you call it when you compromise? Like you're basically using I'm blanking of the exact word, but you're using compensatory techniques to kind of see something, right? Versus which makes it actually worse because now it's like, when you talk about your back, and I don't know exactly what you teach, Margie, but when people just wear these back braces instead of actually strengthening their core and their back and front, the core, right? So it's like at the end of the day, you make it worse and worse over time by using those habits. So that's one thing I see with screens. And we do know, you talked about blinking earlier, that when we look at screens, we tend to blink less than when we look at people or other objects. So there is definitely a reduction. And then the blue light, I'm happy to talk about blue light as well. Um, Blue light is good and bad, but when we look at screens, a lot of times we get too much imbalanced light into our eyes, and that is definitely not helpful for our vision, for sure.
Okay, so let's start on your seven, not your other exercises, but you also teach them as just 7 strategies that we can all use.
Well, the first two I really want to emphasize, just like everything else in the body, the eyes really need movement. And we have different types of movement, obviously, with the eyes. We can move our eyes, roll them out in the socket. We can kind of move our attention. So we have this kind of more on the same plane, like horizontal movement or vertical movement or all kinds of movement, like something where you track something in the sky or where you kind of move your attention from one thing in the book or one thing on the screen. And then we have near far movements. And you might have heard eye doctors love to talk about this 20-20-20 rule. And I will tell you why I'm not a big fan, but the concept is every 20 minutes, you look into the distance for 20 seconds, 20 feet into the distance. And I'm a big believer of practical things so that you don't really have to like need tools or set timers. And also really who's gonna work on the computer and set a timer for 20 minutes and then another one for 20 seconds. And then it's just not realistic. It sounds really catchy. So what I prefer is basically what I call near far swings. So more that idea, first of all, it's really relaxing, but you can either find objects. Some people like to look at their thumb, and kind of hold it close and then move it away and then move their attention to an object in the distance. But you can basically just move your attention near and far. I wouldn't even set a timer. I also prefer to set my computer up at a window. So as I'm talking to you right now, I can just look really far. It's easy. Like I don't have to get up and turn around and walk outside of the house. So if you have the ability to set up your environment in a way where it's easy for you to shift your focus from near to far, and you can also find interesting things to look at. So it's kind of more fun versus just this mechanical thing. So um, behavioral optometrists often talk about pencil push-ups, which is the same idea with the thumb. You kind of look at it and you move it out at arm's length, and then you move it close to your nose and you move it back and forth. I find these things extremely boring personally. So I prefer, honestly, it's like it's just this exercise aspect. But we really want to be more mindful because we see in the brain, and while we're moving our eyes, it's like as if you just do exercises totally mindfully, like body exercises, right? But you can be more, pay more attention how you feel. What are your thoughts? Are you so I feel like vision is such a sensory experience. We want to kind of do it more mindfully. You can do it while you're walking instead of looking down at the ground, moving your attention near and far, but kind of have like a relaxed swing near and far that you can do any time of the day, right? Versus when we walk, we might look at our phones. Again, just moving your attention near and far in a more relaxed way. You don't need specific targets to look at, but if you like, sometimes people like to hold a flower, or I have this cute little pen here that I get out of my drawer for those that watch the video. I got this, I always buy like fun things in children's stores. So this is a cute little frog pen. It has two little goggly eyes on it. But those like little for children, those little things. Or sometimes we have those with feathers, or like fun little pencils. So if you do these kind of pencil push-ups and you want to focus more on the near far swings at the near distance, more from like close to your nose to arm's length, find something cute to look at. So it's fun. But I also encourage like longer swings that are not just arm's length, but really going further into the distance where our eyes are really the most relaxed.
I love that. I'm just seeing right now, I have a window and I have various plants. And so I'm not even realizing that I do that. I'll just, be on my computer and then I'll just look out the window. I'll see a plant or I'll look to the plants. So if a person, people get very into their work, me included, and I'm doing a project, just some guidelines. I know not to be exact because that's so stringent and that's so, what would you say if someone's, working at the computer, like let's for an hour, let's say, when would you stop and just look into the distance?
I think this is why I think the mindfulness is so important. And I teach something called strains and gains. Notice when your eyes are straining. So we can talk about this a little bit more, but I'd rather have you like tune in because I used to stare a lot. I never used to blink. And now I cannot not blink because it feels really bad. So it's almost like once you get used to movement and no, you don't move for a week, you're like how your back aches and everything just feels bad. So getting more into this feeling of you crave like these little eye movement snacks, or whatever you want to call them, is better. But I would say, I mean, 20 minutes to me is already a long time. And it doesn't like if you blink at the computer, what I'm doing too, it makes a difference how you use screens. So I teach all my people in my programs how to use screens because you don't have to have vision problems by looking at screens, but you need to know how to use them. And if you use them well, it might be fine to just look at a screen for 30 minutes, but I'm teaching again with the window at with the computer at the window. It just makes it so easy. So for me, like 20 minutes seems a really long time not to ever look away at something else, and even if we think and we look up to the ceiling, or I feel like yeah, we don't really want to sit or do a long time. So tune in a little bit more what your eyes are craving. But if you really feel like you can't stop, then maybe setting a timer can be helpful. Like Pomodoro timer is one of those tools that can also help with focus. Have you heard of Pomodoro
Yeah,
timer?
yeah.
Yeah.
What about that?
Yeah. So it was invented by an Italian. It's like, I think it's every 25 minutes. So there's tons of free Chrome extensions and apps, and every 25 minutes you're taking a 5-minute little break. I tried it out to the point where it locks the screen. I didn't like that aspect, but there's many ones that just give you a little reminder. They count on the 5 minutes and then you get back to your task. And that's also tied in how long you can really focus on something before your mind drifts away anyway. So maybe if you like those kind of things, try the Pomodoro timer, but also really tune into when your eyes feel like, hey, I really want to move.
I found the blink thing was something I really didn't know about until sometimes we're not aware of things because I'm very much
Right.
aware because of posture and everything I teach, getting up, taking breaks, moving. And but I never and changing your distance, I did think of that, but not to the extent. The blinking thing was something when you showed me that, and then the cupping of the eyes, a couple of things, but the blinking, I was shocked at how little I was blinking and how really life-changing the blinking has been. So, it's such easy things that we just aren't aware of how good it feels. You know what I do now in the summer? I bring my computer outside and I actually try to do work outside where I can really look at a lot of different things and break it up. And I don't get the eye strain. I don't get those problems anymore. It's amazing.
That is a really good point. I mean, as long as it's not too bright, because obviously, with the brighter it is, the screen. But yeah, having peripheral awareness too. We're not going to talk about that today. We did a whole episode on that. But you definitely want to make sure that you're not sitting in a dark room with your computer just lit, but you have the awareness of the periphery. Shall we get to the second one?
Yes, because let's go to number two. Okay.
Okay, I call this the finger gate. And all you need is your two fingers, two index fingers. So for those of you that are just listening, I'm basically holding two stretched out index fingers in line with my nose. So one is a little further away. It doesn't have to be all the way at arm's length. It could just be your elbows can both be bent, but one is a little further away, one is a little closer to your nose. So the exact distance actually doesn't matter. You can even play around with different, like moving them both closer or further away, or so it doesn't matter. It works either way. And this is training both your near vision, you're focusing up close, it's giving that movement to the lens. Like, you want that movement, the flexibility in the lens, right? You want to kind of keep it relaxed and loose and able to, just like a biceps muscle, like I said. And then it also helps your eyes, the two eyes work together, which we call binocular vision or fusion. So when you look, so first of all, look at the finger that's a little further away. So you see that index finger, and then I'm asking you, as you're looking at that index finger that's a little further away, are you seeing one or two fingers of the one in front? And again, you keep your attention on the finger that's further away. Now, if you have two functioning eyes, you should see two blurry fingers up front, close to you, closer to your nose, as you're looking at the finger that's farther away. And they will be blurry because you're focusing on the finger that's farther away, but you see two of these fingers. And basically, it looks like the two blurry fingers building a little gate, and then the one that you're focusing on the back is in the middle. So it's like the finger gate. You see that?
I do. I see the back one's clear and the front one's blurry.
Well, yeah, but you're not shifting your attention right now. You just
Oh,
keep
go back.
looking at the back finger, and you see two blurry ones in the front. And then we can also look at this. Do the blurry ones look equal? Is one more faint than the other? So that could indicate that maybe one eye has a cataract, the other one doesn't, or one eye has poor vision. Now, obviously, we're going to switch it around and do it the other. No, you don't have to switch your actual hands. You can stay, if you want to, you can move the left one front or whatever. But now we're looking at the front finger. So we're looking at the one that's closer to us. It's more crossing your eyes, right? And now as you're looking at the front finger, you should see two fingers in the back. And they will definitely be a little bit sharper because you're focusing up closer. But you have a finger gate not blurry. The finger that's close to your nose that you're looking at will be kind of framed by a gate of two of the rear fingers. So basically, the idea here is that wherever we look, and we are not aware of this. When I first showed this to my mom during my teacher training many years ago, she was like, "Wait, what? Why do I see two fingers?" I'm like, "Well, your eyes are in two different spots in the face, so each eye perceives a different image. But when we do something called fusion, we create a single image, which is which gives us a 3D vision. So most of the time, we don't pay attention to that. But you want to train, this is a great training for binocular vision, but because we're flexing our lens as we're moving our attention back and forth, and it's really great to improve near vision, because in order to look up close, we need to be able to focus up close, right? We can't just avoid things that are difficult, which is what happens with presbyopia, old age side. When you always wear reading glasses, you're basically just never using your eyes at the near point. There's going to be an atrophy of the ability to focus up close. And if you want to make this even more fun, you can use your two fingers. So you have index finger 1, which is close to you, index finger 2, which is a little further away. And then you can use a third object That could be, I have a water bottle here, or maybe you're outside, you have a tree. You can find another object. It's kind of nice if it's like a more like a stick, like your finger, if it's like some kind of vertical. And then you can jump your attention. You can do near far jumps, like more with exact targets. So you look at your close finger, you see two of the rear fingers. Then whatever the object is in the distance, let's say it's a tree. So you also see two of those trees, right? Then you're moving your attention to the further away finger. Now you see two fingers in front, and then you see two trees. I'm just making up the tree. I don't actually have a tree here. And then you're looking at the tree, and then you will see four fingers. So basically, wherever we look, we fuse the image to one, but wherever things that are in our field of view that we don't focus on, they are doubling. And that goes for everything. If you look at your phone, you will probably see 4 feet down there. If you look at down, you look at your phone. So this is like a normal binocular experience. We just usually don't pay attention. Our brain kind of doesn't pay attention to the doubling, but this is a great way to like move your lens near and far and to improve your near focus too. It's kind of, and you have your fingers always with you, right? It's like you don't need any tools.
And so this will improve. I mean, are there people that aren't seeing the two fingers? They may just see one?
Well, if they just see one, so then I would usually cover one eye or the other. Or if you can squint, let's say if you had, like, give me an example. Let's say you're looking, sometimes people see it. Let's say they look at the close finger and they see two in the back, or they look at the back finger and see two in the front, but they don't see it both ways, right? So let's say you're looking at the finger that's further away and you don't see two fingers in front, right? If you can squint one eye shut and then the other eye shut, like, if you can do that, you will see that your front finger will be jumping, the one that you're not looking at, the one that is out of, you will see that it jumps, and you're like, oh, it jumps because each eye sees a different angle for that finger. So and then you can use something that we're going to talk about in a moment, the concept of memory and imagination. You can close your eyes, and in your memory, you can even hold up your fingers, and in your mind, you're looking at the rear finger, and now you imagine two fingers in the front, because you know that each eye sees a different version of that finger. And then oftentimes you will see it. And sometimes we need more work. We need to work with eyes separate for if you have strabismus, amblyopia, or any more severe condition in terms of the binocular vision, we might have to, but usually what I find, unless it's really severe amblyopia or one eye barely sees, usually we can establish this pretty quickly. So,
And
yeah.
you do it for a couple minutes, like each day or whenever? How do you?
Don't do it when you're bored. Have fun with this. Maybe, if you have any challenges, maybe add it to that object in the distance so it's more fun. It's definitely great, a little game. I have so many vision games, to be honest. I think it has to be interesting enough. Maybe use, instead of your fingers, if you want to use some cute pencils or anything, that it has to be interesting. Our vision is always about interesting curiosity. And if we just do something like mechanical, will it harm you? No, but it really doesn't have the same benefit either. So I wouldn't force myself. I would definitely make it a fun little game. And yeah, do it like whatever you can do to loosen your eyes and relax your eyes. And what you want to do is really give your eyes the full range of motion of different distances throughout the day a lot. Just like I'm standing at my desk right now, but I'm not going to be standing for the rest of the day. I might be sitting, and then I walk outside, and we move our bodies all day long. And so same with the eyes. We want to create lots of movement.
Oh, I love this. I just have to tell you one thing. Years ago, again, when we first met, you said that, too many people use reading glasses that are too strong for them, and that can really, really impair your vision. So I do listen to you, Claudia, because that's exactly what I was doing. I'd read the paper, and even though I could read it myself, I would put the glasses on to really magnify it. Or even when I would go to menus, I would like sometimes, just overdo it. And I said, no, I'm not doing this anymore. Claudia said, this is going to really be detrimental to my eyes. So guess what? I no longer need the reading glasses for menus. I don't need them for the newspaper. It really, really worked. I by a being not that I strained, but I'm like, I can do this. I don't need that extra crutch or that extra really high magnification. So it really did work. Anyway, let's continue.
But I love that what you said there, because we want to make sure that you don't strain. So if you just like now you're squinting all the time, you're not going to help yourself. A lot of times initially I say use brighter light. That can be really helpful. But I had a different order, but since you just talked about reading, so let's talk about an activity I call read between the lines. And that is usually helpful. Basically, like if you have any small print, if you have a book, if you have a newspaper, it doesn't matter. You can always do a first test of like without glasses. You take obviously none of these things you want to wear glasses. So I have a book right here, and you can always do an initial test assessment, especially if you're presbyopia, the old age side with reading glasses, and be like, well, what's the best distance I can read this at, or can I read it at all? Or if it's blurry, but what's still the best distance? You kind of want to get a sense. You can also use something I provide people with near vision test cards with fonts in different sizes so that you can see like which font is the one that you can see the best and at what distance. And anybody farsighted will push it out further, so more like arm's length. But you want to make a first assessment. And then you do something that might sound totally counterintuitive. Now you're holding this super close, literally a few inches from your nose. You're not going to try to read a thing. You just let your eyes move around the white spaces between the lines of text. You can even go vertically between the gaps in the words, as if you're like thinking of like, your attention is like water flowing through those little rocks of letters. So you want to just move your attention around at a distance where you absolutely will not make any effort whatsoever. So you hold it really close, and then you always want to move your head along. So we never want to move just the eyes. So holding it really close, and then you're moving your attention from left to right. You're looking at those white spaces, blinking and breathing, and you do that for a few minutes. I would really spend some time, because this is a way to explore the near point without strain, because it's like so close that you're not going to make any effort. And I recommend rather smaller print for this, like not giant letters, but more like smaller print, like any kind of book that is not like in large print, but regular print, right? That would work. And so you do that for a while, and then you can close your eyes for a moment to reset. And then you look at whatever you looked at beginning, either the same book or something else. And you're like, is it easier for me to read? Because now first of all, you moved your eyes, you moved your attention, you're relaxed. And all of a sudden, what seemed like really hard before will very likely be like, oh gosh, now this text is super clear, or I can read smaller print if you have different sizes, or I can hold it closer to my face instead of pushing it so far away. So I call this read between the lines. It's a way of relaxing into the near point without making any effort to read. You can actually even do foreign languages are great for if you ever have these manuals that you get with a new appliance and they have stuff in a language, because you're even less likely to make any attempt to read it, or you can hold it upside down. It's really just about looking up close, moving your attention, moving your head and your eyes together, like as if you're kind of scanning those white spaces. You're not even paying attention to the letters, which will obviously be blurry at that distance, right? It's really close. But you're letting your eyes relax up close, and they're still focusing up close, right? So you're still kind of engaging those muscles, but without making all that strain and effort. So
Wow, great. Have to
give
try.
that a try.
Yes.
So yeah, some of these techniques I'm teaching you are more advanced, and it might also be helpful to get somebody to help you with those things. But we want to make sure that we're actually using our eyes, especially if you are presbyopic or cataracts. You want to use the eyes at distances where it might be more challenging. And for cataracts, you might notice it more with night driving, halos around lights, things looking foggy as if you're driving in fog. So night driving might be really affected, but we already talked in prior episodes about some things you can do. And I will remind you of some of those things. But when it's presbyopia and cataracts, you might just be avoiding looking up close without putting these strong glasses on. So we really want to like get the brain back to like looking up close without making an effort. So another one that I like to teach. So we have 4 different types of eye movements, and one that we can really influence a lot is called saccadic eye movements, or saccades. And those are small little jumps the eyes make as we are focusing on different things. So the healthier the eye, the quicker those little movements, right? And one thing you can do, we call it the swing or the head swing. And so you can basically think of, I like to teach it in a way where think of because you don't want to move your eyes. You want to move your head only. And your eyes are following along. So sometimes I like to give the instruction, especially if you have a ponytail, it really helps. But if you have a ponytail, imagine somebody grabs, or you can, even if you don't have one like me, but you imagine somebody grabs your head and it's almost like a paintbrush, right? They grab the handle and now they're moving left to right, as if you would be painting something and you're moving your hand left to right to paint it, like you kind of. So you want to move your head and you can go all the way to the edge and all the way to the other edge, but could do it very slowly. And it's almost like your head is moving and it's like your eyes are scanning. They're just kind of like, as if they're like the bristles of the brush, they're just touching the environment. I like to do something of chest height so that we don't like crane our head back. We have our chin parallel to the floor, right? So this is really great to do in front of a bookshelf. You want to do it where there's interesting things. And it's not about looking at each thing like, it's more like brushing by. As if you have a big, those dust feather thingies, as if you kind of dusting off the bookshelf or something. So your eyes are just gliding by as your head is moving. So the head movement initiates it. It's not about moving your eyes, but that will improve those little saccadic eye movements a lot by just doing those swings. And I would do them really rather slow, because if you do them super fast, in most cases, people don't really benefit that. So that's something you can do. Sometimes people like to hold an index finger in front of the nose. You're not looking at the index finger. It's just an object in your space. And you get that idea of noticing as you're moving your head left to right. Don't forget to breathe, by the way, that the index finger seems to be moving the other way. So the more relaxed our eyes are, the more we get this idea of movement. So as you're moving your head to the left, the finger seems to be moving to the right. And again, you're not looking at the finger. The finger is just an object gliding by in your environment. So those saccadic eye movements are really great. And the swing is just, and you don't have to make it all the way from shoulder to shoulder. It's a nice way to relax the neck muscles. But even if you just do a short little swing from one edge of the computer to the other, and you have interesting things, what we don't want is like jump from here to here. We want these eyes to kind of be gliding by, as if, again, if it's here like a paintbrush, and less effort is important. That's why I like the idea of a paintbrush, as if somebody is just moving your head, and you're just like, you make so little effort about this movement and your eyes are just following along. So that's something called the swing. That is a technique that I'm teaching that is, and again, find something that you're interested in. So it's not like, if you do it in front of a white wall, it will be really challenging because there will be nothing for the brain to kind of scan, I noticed when I was teaching this when I did private sessions in person back in the day, and there was my white door in my room, and I noticed how the eyes would skip from one edge to the other. And then I put like all kinds of cool things. I was hanging all kinds of things from the door and colorful post-it stickers. So, and again, it's not about looking at each of these objects, but there's something for the brain to be interested in, because otherwise it just skips right over. It's this boring space, right? It's just white. So that's a swing. That's a really helpful technique for improving those little saccadic eye movements, because we want movement near far. We want the like looking up close, with the crossing the eyes. We want those little sideways movements. We want like a lot of movement in the eyes, basically. And then the swing, what I just taught, you can do that with a bigger distance. You can do it up close. If you want to improve your near vision, doing it a little bit like in front of a bookshelf. But you can also do it outside. You can do it in a park. You can do it. Doesn't matter where you do it. It's just the idea that you're swinging your eyes or your head, and then your eyes are following along, so that you don't have that stagnated, focused, hard stare, but your eyes can relax into those movements. So,
No, it's so
so that,
interesting because typically that's just not something we think about. We want to do something over here, we look there. We don't even think about that in between area. You look here, you want to look at your phone, you look here. So I think
but I
that,
mean, that's how
yeah,
daily life works. I mean, in
I
daily life, this
agree.
is not a technique how we would use it. You wouldn't just necessarily, if there's something interesting there, or there's a car approaching, you're going to look at the car. You're not going to do this
And
like
of
soft
course,
sweep. But it's just a way to improve those little saccadic eye movements that can be really helpful for this is actually one of the core things that we need to improve for clear vision is those saccadic eye movements. And the swing is one of the many techniques I teach that it's really easy to do. And again, you don't need any tools. All you need, but mindfulness is key. I've seen people do it like really fast, but at that point, your eyes are just, you need to be mindful about these techniques, so rather do them slower and notice. And if you do it right, you will notice that when you go to the left, whatever you're regarding, whatever's in your visual, that goes to the right. So there is this idea that the whole world is going the other way as you're moving your head and eyes in one way. So the more of that, what we call oppositional movement, you notice, the more relaxed your eyes and the better your vision. So it's physics. It's like an optical illusion. Obviously, nothing is moving. You are the one moving, but there's an appearance. It's if you're in a carousel, right? There's this appearance as everything is going to be moving. Obviously, your bookshelf isn't moving around, but it appears that way, and that's a great sign too when you notice that. And that's why I said the finger, because if something is really close to us, we see those objects moving more than objects that are further away. That's called the parallax effect. So sometimes it helps when people have the finger. And again, you're not looking at the finger. It's just one of the objects that you're gliding by, or you can use a pencil, obviously, too. But that will help you notice how things are moving oppositionally. Like for many people, that's like the first time, like, oh yeah, now I see that idea that when I turn to the left, the pen or the finger goes to the right. There's this idea of something goes the other way. So we have a couple more to cover. We have like 3 more to cover.
Oh, okay. But before we even covered those, I know people are listening and saying, really, does this really work? I'm telling them that, I mean,
Yeah.
I think all the things you've helped me with, but that night vision thing used to drive me crazy where the lights would just bother me and I'm like, oh, and totally went away with just sunglasses. I mean, it's unbelievable. But for people listening who are a little skeptical, you say, try it. So you want to just tell people what's available because you're doing something amazing that people have really enjoyed in the community.
Yeah, I have a free course called See Better in Just 4 Days. And I teach that like a few times a year. And because my whole point is like, don't believe me, don't believe your eye doctor, see for yourself that you can improve your vision. Obviously, you have to have enough open-mindedness to try these things. But there's also people I'm like, you know what, if you just want to like spend thousands of dollars on glasses and your vision will get worse, be my guest. At the end of the day, we make our own choices, and I'm not here to convince anybody. Honestly, I have zero interest. But like you, Margie, you were like, okay, there's a couple of things I can do. This is easy for me. I can try these things. And you saw big results, just like my clients. I mean, I'm blown away by the things I see. We had people avoid corneal transplant surgeries. We had people like totally ditching their glasses, being in weaker glasses, being able to drive at night again. Like you said, that's a biggie. Improving even at more advanced cataracts, improving their field of view and glaucoma, which is you lose your peripheral vision. So by the eye doctor confirmed improving field of view, reducing intraocular pressure. We had people remove their correction out of their driver's license, going back to the Department of Motor and Vehicle, doing the eye test, and they passed it, and they didn't need the correction on their license anymore. I mean, I have so many thousands of success stories. But at the end of the day, if you're not interested or doing things, my mother always says, I love my mom, but she's always like, don't give me another lecture on diet. And she's diabetic, has high blood pressure, all these things. But it's okay. It's her choices, right? She does what she does. Of course, she also had cataracts, got the surgery. But my point is, we are our own ambassadors of our health, and nobody cares about your health or your eyesight or your eye health as much as you do. Trust me.
So I think this is really great. So if people just want to try it out free of charge, they can come to this event and see, right? You said they'll really notice the
Exactly.
difference in 4 days, which I think is so great. So anyway, so yes, we'll have all that information in the show notes. And I just have to say, because I have a very large community, so many people wrote me thank you notes. Thank you for introducing me to Claudia. And they really changed they were able to change their prescriptions. I mean, it's really if you told me prior to meeting you, I wouldn't have thought this. Honestly, I would have been, I know you can improve a lot of things with your eyes and make them healthy and different things with vitamin. I knew all that and movement because I'm such a movement person. But to actually change your prescription and, help reduce cataracts and all that, it's quite, but the night vision, that was the thing that, I mean, I was able to drive, but it would bother me, and now it's like, oh, no problem. Anyway, so keep going. But I wanted to tell people this is available. It will be in the show notes. And, yeah, and then, you do have them a couple times a year as well, and, also on Claudia's website, there's information. So we'll have all that stuff in the show notes.
Yeah, you definitely, it's gonna be, when I run those events, you can also find it on my website, but ideally, use Margie's link so that we know that you're connected. And it's we do live coaching every day. So I give you a super simple thing to do every day. And then we do live coaching and there's prizes. We've done it 3 times. So we're doing it 3 times this year in 2025. And I plan to do it 3 times a year because like I said, I think it's so important to just see for yourself, because especially with all the craziness going on, like, don't always believe everybody what they say. I'm a huge fan of testing things myself. I don't ever take anything for granted. If somebody says, do this, I'm like, let me try it out. And then, seeing might be believing, but I think nowadays with AIs, doing it but yourself, getting results yourself is probably the best way of believing something. Right? Because who knows if we can even trust our eyes much longer. But so I want to touch on, you talked about this a few times, the sunlight. So when you get cataracts, or you might often be told sunlight is causing cataracts. That's the reason you get cataracts. We need to protect our eyes from the sun. Now, I do want to say I have not met anybody, and I know there's people out there that got too much sunlight into your eyes. But if you're a gardener, if you're a sailor, if you're like surf all day, if you're like literally outside all day and you live in a climate where the bright light is really bright, like near the equator, yes, or if you're an Arctic explorer, if you go into extremely bright conditions, I was in Greece, for instance, right? Blue skies, all these houses are white. Yes, please take care of your eyes, wear sunglasses. If your pupils don't constrict, which they naturally do if you have healthy eyes when it's really bright, which is, by the way, the relaxed state of the pupils, or if you are taking any drugs that make your pupils dilated, or if you're really stressed all the time, which dilates your pupils, in that case, you might be getting too much sunlight. But we want to train to relax. That's really what all my work is about, is these relax exercises. So I teach something called sunning, and we can do sunning with eyes closed. So if you're really nervous about sunlight and cataracts, first of all, the first hour after sunrise and the last hour before sunset, there is no UV light. It's the safest time to walk around without sunglasses, and actually we now know how healthy it is for circadian clock, for sleep, for hormones, for literally our health, to get actual sunlight into our naked eyes. I mean, even Andrew Huberman, an ophthalmologist, talks about this. We do need natural light into our eyes. And if you feel like a little scared in the middle of the day, you can wear a hat or a cap, or maybe wear sunglasses if it's really bright. I have a company that I also like for blue blockers. They just came out with daylight lenses to reduce some of that blue light or UV light, right? So not all of it. It doesn't mess with the circadian clock. But sunning, you can do that with your eyes closed. So even in the middle of the day, and it's similar, the idea of turning your head side to side, what we talked about with the swing. So just move, like blinking and not blinking, but breathing, and just slowly moving your attention left to right. And imagine the sun is kind of in the center. And the eye that turns to the side will now be in the shade. And there will be a very, very slight pupillary constriction and dilation behind the closed eyelids. But that trains our pupillary reflex, which is super important for night driving, because we need to, especially in the city, it's different if you're in the countryside and it's just pitch black dark. But in the city, our eyes need to constantly adjust between bright headlights, darkness. So the sunning is a really great way to reduce light sensitivity and improve your pupillary reaction. It's super safe for anybody, even if you're really worried about cataracts. And you can do that in the middle of the day. And then in the middle of the day with the eyes open, maybe wear a cap, wear a hat. And if you really feel you want some protection, that's fine. But in the first hour after sunrise, last hour before sunset, it's super safe, and you definitely want some natural light into your eyes. So it's a huge mistake. Most of us get way too little natural light. You know, again, unless you're an outside gardener or you work in construction or you're like, most of us have a severe lack of natural light. It's almost like we eat like a junk food diet. It's like a junk light diet. By being inside all day long, being exposed to fluorescent lights, halogen lights, LED lights all day long, really. So we have usually a lack of sunlight that is actually a contributor to cataracts. So, but again, there's always exceptions, so I want to point that out, right? Not everybody falls into the same category. But yeah, getting that natural light into your eyes or doing the sunning with eyes closed helps reduce any neck tension too, which is so many of us are tight in the neck. So rotating your head gently side to side.
Yeah, what I started with, because I was a person, the minute I'd be outside, sunglasses went on. Like I didn't go anywhere without sunglasses.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah. And so until, I met you. And then when I heard this, I'm like, oh, very interesting. I will try this. So then I ride my bike almost every day. We have these beautiful woods near me. So it's not like it's that sunny. And I'm also wearing, a helmet. But so I started, okay, I put the sunglasses, on I can take them on and off if I wanted. So I started just, seeing where I could go without them and then putting them on when it was really sunny in my eyes. I couldn't see. And that's what did it. Over time, I barely wear them now when I'm biking and I just use them as needed. It's very different where I wouldn't walk outside. But then when I started seeing the correlation with my night, I couldn't believe it, Claudia. I'm like, wow, this really works. I just can't believe that these bright lights aren't bothering me at all. So anyway, I could keep going, but
It's
really,
important to know, right? It's like eyes are light receivers. I was super light sensitive. I wore them every day on overcast days, even. And, when our eyes, it's like I always say the ears are sound receivers. If we feel like our ears are so sensitive, I just need to put earmuffs on all the time. Our eyes need to be able to tolerate light. But again, there can always be extreme conditions, which is where it's too much. But for most of us in our daily lives, we don't nearly get enough natural light. Okay, so two more things. You already touched on this, the cupping, which is, we call it palming. It's you cover your closed eyes with your cupped hands. Your forefingers or your fingers will cross over your forehead. And then you want to relax your elbows. You close your eyes. It's very relaxing. It's lubricating for the eyes. So that's something I recommend doing. But now your mind. So what you can do that really helps with cataracts too, or even near vision, as you're relaxing, taking a few deep breaths, you're relaxing your eyes. You want to have your head more straight. So having support for your elbows is important. Um, comfortable position. Sometimes people like to straddle a chair, place the elbows on the back rest of the chair, or, do it in any way on a desk, right? You have the desk to support your elbows. But bring up your mind, like imagine your lens in your eyes clear. Imagine that the lens to be young and flexible. So we now know how much our thoughts, our words, how much our visualization, Joe Dispenza's work is absolutely amazing in terms of our beliefs. And if you literally, I've seen like this happen. If you complete every day, my lens is young, my lens is clear, whatever you want to say to yourself, my eyeball is healthy. Those things that you say to yourself and you imagine. And when you see a picture of the eye and you see, the lens, then it's easy to imagine it. Like, I heard, this wasn't my student, but it was a student of a colleague. He said she imagined every day with a squeegee, like how you clean a dirty window and you just kind of squeezing the dirt off with the squeegee. And then at the end, they found the cataract at the very bottom of the lens. And she's like, oh, why didn't I imagine it draining out of the eyes? But, those things have a big impact. So imagining seeing well up close, you can even in your imagination, maybe there's something, it could be a partner that you're kissing, but like maybe in your imagination, bring something close to you. Some people like to imagine walking through a forest, but maybe you pick up a pine cone in your imagination and you're like smelling it and you're looking at the little pieces. So using your memory in your imagination while you're palming versus just kind of drifting off could be really, really helpful too. And the last thing is one of my favorites, because eyesight only happens in the present moment. And what are we doing all day long? We're often in the future or the past, ruminating about things that happened in the past. Are we thinking about the future, all the things we got to do today, tomorrow, next week, next year? This is like, that's our human mind. So one thing you can do, I like to, I call it color of the day. So pick a color. We obviously both picked blue today, right? But pick a color, and then if you have glasses, take your glasses off. That basically goes for all the things I was teaching today. Don't do it with glasses. Obviously, if you're driving a car and you're doing color of the day, then please, be safe. But color of the day means picking your color and then looking around and like noticing all the things that are blue. I'm seeing so many things. I'm seeing a blue book. I'm seeing a blue binder. I'm seeing a little blue plastic visor I use for some of my trainings. I'm seeing a blue tape dispenser. My water bottle here is blue, right? So when we look around, all of a sudden we are like present. We are like noticing things around us. And people are always amazed by how many things they can see. And if it's blurry, then focus on, oh, I can see this blue thing over there, even if you might not know exactly what this thing is. As you go for your walks, or maybe you're taking public transport, instead of just looking at your phone, look outside and look for like blue things. You'll be like, oh God, there's a blue house. I never noticed that. Or look at this graffiti. I do that a lot when I'm in Germany, because obviously I take the train not as much here as I do in Europe. And it's always cool to like see looking at all the people waiting at the train station that have blue outfits, whatever. It's just a really fun game. It keeps you present, and it keeps you in that joy state. Colors are really joyful. They make you feel good, and you focus on what you can see and not what you cannot see. So those are simple things you can, except for palming and maybe reading between the lines. But most of these things you can incorporate into your day. Again, other than reading between the lines where you need some printed materials, you don't need any tools to do any of this stuff. So
These are so great, but the palming feels so relaxing, and as you said, then you can do a visualization with it. It's such a
yeah.
easy thing to just stop and let your eyes relax. And I think for people with eye strain, which is so common, and then your neck tightens up and your whole body tenses up, this is like one way to just break that cycle and prevent it. So
You
it's
can do it when you meditate. Sometimes, people do prayer or other morning routines. So you can, sometimes I say even pee and palm, wash your hands first. But if you're sitting on whatever you have to do, in maybe just a 30-second timeout, right? I used to call it my little mommy's break when my kids were little, a little timeout. I always try to make sure that people's eyes feel lubricated. And noticing maybe in the morning that goes really fast. You just do it for 30 seconds or a minute, but maybe in the evening you have more strain and you need to do a little longer. And to end it, by the way, I didn't talk about this, but when you come out of palming, don't just rip your eyes open. So slowly take your hands away and then wait. You will see how much light comes in through the closed eyelids compared to when you had them, covering the hands covering your eyes. And then wait till you're ready. And then I say, do 5 quick little blinks, 5 gentle squeezes where you just squeeze your eyes a little bit. That stimulates the lacrimal gland and the meibomian glands here. So that helps produce tears. You're not going to be crying like crazy, but it will make your eyes feel moist and lubricated. And many times I see people even seeing better after palming. But it's your little eye spa. Think of it like a little spa treatment for your eyes that you can do anytime, anywhere where you feel like strain or where your eyes feel tired. So
yeah, it just sort of gives a message like, okay, you can relax. I love it. But all these things you taught us, thank you so much. And I can't wait to hear from everybody. And we'll have all the information on your 4 days, which is so good. And is there anything you want to leave us with? Because this has been so helpful. So try these. This is, as I said, I don't, you know me, I don't make things up, but this is the real deal. And it's helped me so much. And I didn't even realize I had so many issues until I improved things. You know, but yeah, and it's helped so many people in the community. So I can't thank you enough, and thank you for coming back and sharing more things that can help us with cataracts and help us with our vision. They're just so wonderful. Anything else you just want to share before we end?
yeah, I want to say, don't wait. A lot of times I get people when it's quite advanced or, it's like, don't wait. Really think about how precious your eyesight is. And maybe if you like glasses, like, I don't really mind wearing glasses, because I meet people that are like really annoyed and it's actually loss of freedom because you're kind of handicapped if you need glasses and you can't function. If you lose them, you can't even get home, right? You need to find, so it can be quite scary, but think about, like, there's other things beyond glasses, like eye diseases. And for many of them, cataract is where you can do a lens replacement that might also have consequences. And I always say, if people do it, which sometimes I recommend it, do it in combination with a naturally clear vision technique so that you can actually learn how to keep your eyes well and healthy. But even high levels of prescriptions can, high levels of nearsightedness. We didn't talk about nearsightedness so much today, but there's a higher risk for all these so-called age-related eye diseases like glaucoma, cataract, macular degeneration. All these risk factors, are higher with a higher prescription. So even if you don't care about completely getting out of glasses, it's really up to you how well and how long you can see well. And don't leave it up to just, doctors. They do their best, but they cannot help you if you've kind of neglected things yourself. And for many eye diseases, there's only like, let's wait and see. There's sometimes dangerous surgeries. We might not know if they work. Shots in the eyes, all kinds of things. So it's really up to you to make sure that you see well as you age. And I don't want you to wait till it's really bad. Like, I'd rather have you take little action steps, just like you did, Margie, like little things. And how many improvements did you already see without really doing a big exercise routine every day, right? You don't spend any, like, half an hour doing eye exercises. I'm pretty sure you don't. And
No,
still
these were
be
very
on the,
easy. Oh, no, this was really easy, honestly, the cupping and while
yeah,
you're doing other things, I do take breaks, and so doing exercise, so I just added these things very simple.
right. It saw
Yeah.
great results already, so it doesn't have to be complicated, really. You don't have to walk 10,000 steps with your eyes every day. It's like, it's but do something, be aware of those things and realize that you can't blame somebody else. At the end of the day, it's your decision.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure, and I can't wait to hear from everybody who makes these little changes or who attends your workshop, and all good. So thanks so much for joining me, and we always stay in touch. So I'll let you know I'm going to add some new ones now today. Thanks so
Thank
much,
you so
Claudia.
much for having me, Margie. You're always an amazing host, and I absolutely love your community.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed my interview with Claudia as much as I did. And now I have 7 exercises that you can do that will improve your vision and reduce your risk of cataracts and other eye issues. To go to Claudia's free challenge, all you need to do is go to tinyurl.com/better vision in 4 days. And the 4 is the number 4. And that will also be in the show notes. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this episode, please share it with friends and family because so many people can benefit from this information. So I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.